All right, everybody, we have Rahat. He's going to talk to us about developing hybrid mobile apps with AngularJS and JavaScript. And I am super excited to see this one. So let's see if we can get him connected here. When I switched modes, it turned off his audio and video, but he was on a second ago.
Hi, I'm back.
All right, there we go. All right, well, I will turn it over to you, Rahat, and take it away.
Okay, thanks. So everyone is able to see my desktop, I suppose. I'll just, okay, great. So hi everyone, my name is Rahat. So I just wanted to check if everyone can just say hey in the chat room so that we can see full attendance is there and everyone is now watching. So that was an extensive session, the earlier one. And now I hope I make justice and I don't go and we make do some fun here. So just okay. Oh, great. I'm gonna start the slideshow. Okay, great. So I blog at appsonmob.com if you wanna check out. My Twitter handle is mappmechanic. So I wanted me to call the mobile app mechanic so that I meant app. So today we are going to talk about what is a hybrid mobile application, how it works, what is the new school single page application which everyone is talking about and building, and what is so my perfect choice currently what I use is AngularJS and Ionic, and how we do we set up the development environment and then create a basic app. So today is gonna be more of a basic session, and we are gonna discuss about more hybrid mobile application. I'm going deep into that. Oh, I see my cam. So is my camera working? Okay, great. Sure. Okay. So we start with what is hybrid mobile app. So we have seen that the web has changed, or even the device usage has changed quite dramatically from the past 10 years. People were coming from using big large desktops, then they switched on to small laptops, small netbooks, and then mobile phones become smarter and smarter, and people became dumb and dumb. But there are a wide array of smartphones available, and we see there are a lot of new OS coming up. So the major OS we knew, everyone knew earlier was iOS or iPhone. Then Android came in and it like swarmed all the devices and it became open source, and all the other vendors, the device manufacturers boarded on the Google bandwagon and joined in Android and started using Android. Then came the ever late Windows phone into the smartphone market. It was there since Windows Mobile 5.0, 6.0 and all, but the major you can say the real smartphone material was came a bit later, and then came BlackBerry, and there are a lot of new OSs coming day by day, like Samsung's Tizen, Firefox OS, then Ubuntu phone and all, and these all have tried to somehow bridge the gap between different the problems arisen to port mobile applications into different platforms. So having this wide variety of platforms, we need to have, can we create different mobile applications for all these platforms? I don't think so. We can't create mobile applications. So I don't have time to create a native app for iOS separately, Android separately, then Windows separately and all. But I need so we have all heard of a Bora concept, write once and run anywhere. We have been doing it with Java, with .NET, but it is quite somewhat different for mobile world. So what I'm going to discuss are the two major categories of hybrid mobile app development. So now we know that a native mobile app is a mobile app that we deploy on a particular OS or a particular platform. Then what is a hybrid app? So hybrid app is something like we can amalgamate two different technological platforms and derive a native app. Ultimately, a lot of people have a misconception that hybrid mobile app is just mobile web or something quite alienated, but it is not really alienated. It is the same native app that you install from an app store or everywhere else. So hybrid mobile app is just a term that the app has been built using hybrid technologies and not just the native platform specific language like iOS or Java for Android, that matter. Okay. So for the next of the session, mostly in the enterprise use. So I work with a enterprise organization and I've been developing hybrid mobile applications for a lot of investment banks, a lot of uh, pharmacies around the world, a lot of you can say retail clients and all. And we see that the major part of the mobile app landscape we cater to are iOS and Android for now. So I'm more going to talk about iOS and Android in my current presentation. So the two major categories of hybrid mobile app development are one is using the same technologies like web technologies, HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, and then encapsulating them or packaging them some using some native container like Apache Cordova, and then providing or creating the native app to get installed. So this is like using the web plus a particular container native and then making the app. Whereas the other technology or other category is cross compilation, or you can say that you code in a particular language and it automatically translates into the native language and renders it. So there are tools like Xamarin Accelerator. So Xamarin is a tool in which we can code in C sharp and that can gets converted into Objective C for iOS and for Java for Android. So whereas Accelerator is a tool that lets us code in JavaScript itself, but it translates. So it has a mapping between the JavaScript objects in its library and the native components, and it translates into those. So that is the second kind of an category. But today I'm gonna talk about, so as it is JS remote conf, so I'm gonna talk about JavaScript more. So we are gonna talk about the first category, the HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript category. And so the next slide is how it works actually. So I have some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. How would I be able to run that into a native mobile OS? So if we go or think fundamentally, we know that we open our web part or web content in a browser, and we all have pretty good browsers these days. Recent advancements in Safari using the Nitro JavaScript engine and the Chrome in the Chrome web view in the native Android browser is very fast. So ultimately, we open the our web content in a browser in our mobile OS. So similarly, if we want our app to open the web content, we should have some kind of a browser, and we all must know that all the native platforms have a web view. So there is a Chromeless browser control in the native libraries called web view. So what we do is that we uh, package a native app. We have a Chromeless browser and we initiate our first URL. Mostly it is index.html. So the app always bootstraps from index.html. So when this web content inside a native app with a web view control, a Chromeless browser control, it is packaged for different particular platforms. So the technology we use is Cordova Phonegap that makes a build for all the platforms. So what essentially it does, it has native packages or native containers for all the platforms ready. It picks up the web code, puts it into each native app, and then just builds that using the local development tools. So you can see here that the app HTML part goes into the container where there is a chromeless browser, and then it translates into multiple streams. We can deploy it to a smartphone, tablet, desktop, TV, car, and more devices are coming by, and more support is coming by for tablets, for TVs, for cars, etc. So now we know that how do we do it, or how do we get it done. So do we package our web apps as mobile apps? So we have these big web applications with so long sitemaps, so complex navigation structure. So is it good to have that same thing on mobile? So I guess not. We should not try to just force our web content into the mobile world. We should try to think it that what is the best use case that, or the subset of use cases that are best fit for mobile world from our web world. So we should think about the information architecture that our mobile users would like to see, the navigation, easy navigation and all. So you have to redesign your mobile strategy or your mobile app, and the web won't work. So now the web won't work. So most of our web have been server-side coding, which we have been using PHP, Ruby, .NET, and all. But there is a new school that is coming up, and it is taking fast pace, and even in the enterprise. So if I say that developers really loved SPA from the 2 years or 3 years, but the enterprise is loving SPA from this year or the last year. So they are embracing it widely. So single page application, as you all know, is like loading just a single HTML page and navigating views from that. So we don't need to really go to back to the server and get another page, or change the browser URL location. And on the same location, you play with the stuff, play with the DOM, work with different views, different controllers, and all. So generally, all these frameworks like Ember, Angular, Backbone, or React.js are some kind of an MV star frameworks. So we say, some say MVC, some say MVVM. So they have very minute differences in the different design patterns that they are based on. So we kind of term them MV star frameworks. So it is good. So I hope it is going good till now. I'll just see the chat once. It's quite tough to keep on speaking rather than having feedback. Okay, great. So so now comes to, just a second. So now comes to talking about Ionic framework. So now you have seen that the specific platform or framework I have chosen for mobile development is Angular. So it's not of a, so currently I haven't tried Ember much. I had been using Backbone. So Backbone was more of an SDK, a data driven SDK that I could create a data library of into my application, or some very limited views functionality or templates functionality. So now coming to Ionic framework. So I'll do justice to Ionic and use the same slides that Ionic people have created to be presented in all of their presentation. So Ionic is an amazing platform, and I've been using it since its inception by the people. Okay, my webcam broke again. Is it back? Okay, sure. So Ionic is built on top of AngularJS, as well as it uses Cordova CLI. So if you want to build a native app, or at least a native looking app, I have, in my personal opinion, Ionic is the platform that gives most of the native functionalities. So I'm not gonna skip from the most. So it's like native, and when you use Ionic, you will feel that it is truly like this. So it is more of a kind of web wrapped in a native layer, and So it has Cordova and Phonegap environment itself. So I'm gonna skip here. Okay. So Ionic is based on AngularJS, and most of the AngularJS stuff, like there's a state provider, the UI router you can use, and you can make functionalities like custom directives, use your templates, use your routes, use your states out of the box. So if you have a web app and you want to try running or try porting your AngularJS web app to Ionic, it is has a little migrating curve or a learning curve, but you will be able. Okay. uh, it is based on Ionic is based on SAS, we all know. It is so Ionic people are really performance obsessed, so they have created the basic nitty gritty basic components. So I had been using jQuery mobile in my initial days, and it is jQuery mobile is does not think about performance because it was actually for mobile web and not for hybrid mobile applications, and people used it wrongly within hybrid applications and then complained about hybrid applications that it is not performing well. So when we want to bring our web content directly onto a native app, we have to see that the experience is very smooth so that the people don't feel alienated. So I had read something online that the uncanny valley rule. So there is an uncanny valley rule that if you put something into a perfect scenario, even if it is just 1 or 2% less perfect or 10% less perfect, people tend to have negative views about it. So hybrid app being in the uncanny valley is not very well received in the online mobile world. But if you do it the right way, it is an excellent option for creating mobile applications rapidly. So, and Ionic, I found it much interesting, is based on the native concepts. So, if you are aware of how Cocoa Touch works in iOS, so Ionic framework has tried to do justice to creating very native focused model controller architecture and design patterns so that we follow the nested views and the controller based view controller based events. So it has been beautifully designed. It is a very cohesive visual system. It is clean and simple and easy to customize. They have provided a tons of configuration providers, tons of options where you can pass in different configuration which you don't want out of the box. So there are icon sets. So there are beautiful lists that you can create out of the box, different kind of lists, divider based lists, icon based lists, and all. You have to see what kind of lists are there in your designs. You can customize the CSS on a particular design and all, or you could just use them out of the box. So these are some complex lists. So they pretty much have all that you would need to create a mobile app. So they have swipeable contents, swipeable buttons and all complex list. Then they have a repeat collection. So that this is an interesting part where I want to talk about. So generally we in our hybrid mobile applications, if we use the same ng repeat we have been using in Angular, there's a lot of performance setback because I don't want to load thousands of items using ng repeat if I have to just scroll in a mobile app. You see that all the Twitter feeds, all these application Facebook feeds, they do lazy loading when they load certain elements in your collection. So similarly, Ionic people have developed this awesome directive that is similar to ng repeat but provides scrolling very smooth effect. So it only renders the viewable items, and when you scroll down, it lazy loads all the items, and it is smooth jank free scrolling really. And it has a very low memory footprint because it only renders the current viewable item and just maintains the position where you are viewing, and you can iterate through then when you scroll down or scroll up. Okay, so then there are tabs which you can use. So these all are really Ionic has developed some Angular directives which can be used easily. So there is side menu, then there is a slide box. You can create easily sliders. Then there is an action sheet, like a native iOS action sheet. Sometimes these action sheet look odd on Android devices, but if you are just creating for iOS, it is good to go. Then the most required or the most hep technology or pattern we use these days in all our lists on our mobile phones or our mobile applications is pull to refresh. So it has a very wide array of options in the pull to refresh directive which it has. So, okay, so I wanna just slow down here and just once again go back to the chart and see if I'm going good. Okay, great. So, a lot of problems if you have been a hybrid developer and developing hybrid apps is to maintain the navigation stack. So, generally, when I had developed using jQuery mobile, I had to maintain the navigation stack on my own, or the jQuery mobile guys generally worked on the basic navigation from your window.navigation history object. Whereas in Ionic, we can create nested views and different states. So it is based on a automata, state machine automata, and it maintains the stack navigation according to that. So that if I'm on a particular view and I go deep level into that view, I can come back to that view and then to my home or root controller. So each tab has its own stack, so it is very easy to navigate or to show the back button whenever it is possible. So out of the box, Ionic handles showing the back button, but you can override it and provide it your own configuration at some point of time when you require these kind of stuff. So I think I've covered most of the part of about Ionic, and we'll cover more. So I planned to give the overview about all these technologies in the beginning, and then afterwards, in the last part, I'll quickly demo creating a live app so that you can note down the steps and also learn how you can create an awesome app if if you are in a JS remote conf. I think most of you are web developers, and some of you might be mobile developers. And if you have not used Ionic framework and over Cordova, you should surely try to do that. So I'm just a little back. I'm going about talk about more about Ionic. Just going browsing through the docs so that you can see about more about the extensive functionality that Ionic has. You should go to their website, go to the docs, see. So Ionic have different components. So they have CSS components you can just use. So here is a very good option that if you don't want to use Angular, if you have an app based on Ember, app based on React.js, or you just have plain old JavaScript app, you can use just the CSS components of Ionic and leave out the JavaScript component. But the JavaScript is quite fun too. So I must recommend to use these JavaScript functions and JavaScript uh, components they have built here. Okay, so I am gonna switch back to my presentation once. Okay, so going back to, I'll define if about something about Cordova. So Ionic uses the same Cordova CLI. So the Cordova has a command line tool which you can install using npm, which is used to run commands like start a new project, then add new platforms, add new plugins, and then create the builds. So similarly for Ionic has built its own CLI on top of Cordova CLI. So whenever you are installing Ionic from npm, you have to also install Cordova. So firstly, you need to have some platform specific dev tools. For example, if I want to code for iOS, you need to have Xcode installed. If you need to build an Android app, you need to have Android dev tools installed as well as an Eclipse. Then you can install the Node.js for npm. So we all know that npm has been the best package manager or the most preferred one amongst all developers and all people out there. So you have to install Node.js for npm, then install Cordova and Ionic CLI using npm. Oh, so let us begin the fun code. Oh, so this is not how we see code. So this is not a developer. So now, oh, so we got a developer, so I can create a code. Okay, so let us begin the fun. So firstly, create a new project and code. So after you have run the code, so I'm gonna open my command line. So I've created a JS remote conf. So I'll be whatever demos I'm right now creating or opening up, they have been pushed to a GitHub repo, and I will showcase them to you as well. So I've already created 3 apps here. So as you know, when you want to install, just so whenever you want to install the basic libraries, you have to do npm install globally Cordova and Ionic. So I've got it already installed, so I won't run this command so that I don't have any problem. Then afterward, when you have Ionic and Cordova installed, I can check the versions of the if they're latest installed. Okay, so I have the latest one. So now if I want to create a new app, so it is pretty straightforward that I can create Ionic start, then name of my app, I can say hello world, and then I can choose a starter template. So Ionic has very cool thing like you can say bootstrap apps which helps you to create the basic layout or basic templates. So there are 3 kind of app templates that based on tabs, a blank app template or having a side menu. So I'll create the first one using side menu. So I just say Ionic start and it is downloading the basic app base from the GitHub repo, and it is initializing the default plugins. So there are some default plugins. So how Cordova works is that you have an app that is a native app running some kind of plugins or have some bridge capability to your native code. So that is an interesting, I haven't talked about it yet. So hybrid apps are not just web. If you want to run native code also, you can easily do that. So you can create a native functionality and expose it using the JavaScript bridges available in libraries like Cordova. So Cordova will help you uh, expose your native functionality using a JavaScript API or JavaScript call. So in your JavaScript app, in your web app, you can easily call a basic JavaScript function and that will go invoke a native functionality. And then when the native functionality is done, it will take or give the callback back to your app so that you can take control back. So now I've already created the Hello World app. and see the Ionic CLI is self-descriptive. You don't need anything else to learn about Ionic. So it gives you all the thing how to all the commands you can run. So I'll go to the in the particular folder, and now if I want to see just what the app looks like, or do debugging or do development during my on my desktop, I can do Ionic serve. What it does, it spins off a Node.js server, and it will enable me to see the app in my browser. Okay, so I wanna okay, just a second. Yeah. So see here, I can see the app running on my particular browser. So it has created a nice boilerplate app with all the side menu, the options, and a particular view with a list view. And I can drill down into the this list and all. These are some dummy. So I want you guys. So we should go through the code so that we understand what are the code structure also, or the folder structure of the app generated. So before going into the code, so my Ionic project does use Bower for module dependency, or for injecting new module, new libraries, library management or dependency management you can call. Then it uses Gulp for build management, so that it can easily make the build, or add some run some SAS commands, or run some these serve commands and all. Okay, before diving into the code part, I will see if it is going well again in the chat. I need some feedback. Hi, hi guys. Is it going good? Oh, great. Okay. So, going back to the code. So, as you can see there, here we have to define, or we have to include the CSS file. So it does include the CSS file. If you want to do some customizations using SAP, then you can run the gulp SAS first, so that it compiles the CSS into so it compiles SAS into CSS. Then you have a bundle here, that so they have done a pretty good job in bundling up Ionic and Angular. But whenever you update Angular on using Bower, it automatically updates Ionic also. Oh, sorry. When you update Ionic, it also updates Angular also. And then in your hybrid app, whenever you develop a Cordova app, you have to inject this, or you have to include this script. This will not be there before the build is generated by Cordova, but when Cordova generates the build, it injects specific JavaScript files, platform specific JavaScript files. So this is the file which exposes the native functionalities into your JavaScript, and provides you an API method so that you can call in your app. So here is your app.js and controller.js. As you know, in Angular MVC pattern, app.js, so you need to bootstrap your app using angular.module. So this is the main app.js code. So here they have defined an basic Ionic app with the starter. Name of the app is starter, and these are the dependencies you have to uh, in you have to inject Ionic, inject my controllers here. And as you all know that in Angular, there is a run function, that whenever your controller, or whenever your app initializes, the life cycle of an AngularJS app is that it runs through the configuration first, and then whenever an app is run, it calls this run function. In a hybrid app, we have to check if the device is ready, so that we can initialize or call some native functionality. So, uh, if you want, so this is the Ionic way of checking the device is ready. So if there is an event that gets triggered and we have to bind a callback or an event listener to this event. So if Ionic, when Ionic platform dot is ready, we can run this functionality. So similarly in Cordova, if you have know that you have to listen to an event called device ready. So device ready is the Cordova event. So this is already being taken care by the Ionic platform. So we don't need to really check for device ready event. So we can do any kind of native plugin stuff in this particular window. So then this is my config router. So this particular Ionic uses doesn't use the default router, Angular router, but uses the Angular UI router, which provides a state machine, and you can create different states in your app, which will provide you different views or different uh, your app states, which can be navigated by the user. So this is an abstract state which contains the menu. So if it has abstract true, then the URL which it's gonna work on, the controller. Then this is an app, another state, app.search, app.browse, app.playlist. So these are similar. So these three are like similar pieces. The search and browse doesn't have a controller because they just show the HTML view, and with the playlist you have a controller because you want to have some functionality kind of hooked into them. Then you have this kind of a state where you can pass an extra parameter, or you can use URL parameters to open a specific particular playlist. So now going to the controllers. So just going one by one, I suppose would be better. So this is my main app controller that gets initialized on the login page. So this is a modal that has been populated. So you can see here. So when I click on login, so there is a modal pop-up. So this modal is a directive, an Ionic directive that you can use in your apps, and that has been defined using this Ionic model. You have to pass in the dependency injection also for Ionic model if you want to do. Then the close login to hide the model, to show the model, do login, stuff like this. And then you have the playlist controller where the we blind. So we all love Angular because of using POJOs, plain old JavaScript objects as our models. So here it is binding a collection of playlists to the scope so that they get displayed here. Then maybe I want to show the templates. So if we show the main template which was there was menu. So going back one step before going back to the index.html, I just have to start an ion nav view. So similar to the Angular's ng view, Ionic people have created their own uh, directive for showing the view, ion nav view, because they maintain their own navigation stack and stuff like that. So now going back to the menu. So by default, we have seen that our main abstract state. So this is the first state that has been initialized because when I am not login, this is the state that will open all these states. So all these states are based on this particular abstract state. So you can think of it as providing a master layout to all the sub templates. So when I go to the menu, so menu.html, I'll see that I have created using another directive, I have created the side views and side menu and all. And here I have my main menu content view. So this is my where my all views will be loading actually. So this is a nested view inside the menu view. So we have a abstract state that is called app, which has this master layout, and then all the views that will be all the sub views that will be opening inside this named view, that is menu content. So we're gonna see playlist is just showing the playlist. Okay, so the playlist is when you drill down to playlist. So this is the controller which shows the ion items, all the list of items that you see. So this is an ion list, again a directive. So really when you are creating your own hybrid app and you might have some complex functionality, so you have to see decide what kind of directives to use, what kind of structure you have to make in your particular app. So here this is a basic example. They have used uh, basic ng repeat. We can use collection repeat if we want to do lazy loading on that long list and all. So I think this would be good for the basic app structure so that you can know what is the structure of an Ionic app. When you start building your app, you know where to put your stuff, where to create new views, where to create new controllers and all. And you can use the basic Angular stuff like create your own services to talk to the different APIs or different web services. So now I have created my app. Now I want to test my. So we have seen that how we can serve in on a browser. An interesting option. So an amazing feature that Ionic gives is that you can test it on your phone without even uh, installing it or without even building it. Even if you don't have a Apple developer license and you still want to test your app or you're just building some demos or some cool stuff prototypes, you can just check on your app. So you have to install this Ionic View app. So I'm gonna just show you the Ionic View app and how the current uh, app Hello World app which we have created, if I can show you on Ionic itself. So is everyone seeing my phone? Okay. So this is the Ionic View app. So I have some basic apps with me. So what I can do is I can go back to my console and I will try to upload this particular app. So I just have to say Ionic upload and so you have to create. Sure. So I'm just finishing up in 5 minutes so that the time is for Q&A session. Okay, so I have my app uploaded and it has given me an ID. So you have to you have to sign up with their service. So I just pull and I refresh. So I have this hello world. So I can sync to the latest app. So it will download the app. So it is a cloud-based service. So what it does, it uploads your app to a cloud, and then they download that app to there. So it says sync successful, and I can click on view app to see. So the app we just built on our console or on a local machine, I can test it on my phone so easily. And so it is also great to make some changes and they can easily be uploaded to the phone. So I'll just do a small change, maybe in our playlist we'll say add JS remote conf. So just to show how the updates are also very easy. So I'll say just Ionic upload. It will automatically take care of building it again or compiling it again. It doesn't compile, but it uploads the new content again. So I can use my 3-finger gestures to go back here. It is uploading the app. It has successfully uploaded. I'll say sync to the latest. So I'll say view app. So I can see that it has updated playlist. Oh, just a moment. Okay, so this has updated my app, and I can see now playlist add JS remote conf now. So how I updated my app, I went to here, sync to latest, and it shows me the latest app. So now at the end of my presentation, if you want to use really the native functionalities, so a mobile app is not is incomplete without native functionality. You want to call some GPS, you want to call some camera functionalities and all. So there is a wide array of plugins that have been made available in Cordova, and there was a problem using them in Angular earlier or in Ionic it earlier, but the Drifty people have created this amazing open source library called ng Cordova. So these are AngularJS directive wrappers for plugins or native plugins. So what you have to do is you have to say power install ng Cordova in your app. Then you have to include the script inject is a Angular dependency, and then say add a particular plugin. Okay, so it is giving me some error. The internet is not working, or there is some problem here. So I have a pre-made app that I did add the plugin. So I can see what plugins are installed using Cordova plugin. So it says Cordova. So I create an app demo using a barcode scanner. So I'll show you a barcode scanner app I created in the morning. Okay. So this is the app which I created using Ionic tabs based framework, and I can scan a particular barcode. So it can easily scan a particular barcode. So see, creating hybrid apps is not just about your web content, but also your native functionalities. So, Chuck, Chuck, I think do we have more time, or we are good to go?
I broke you when I turned on my camera. All right. We have about
No.
5 minutes for questions. So.
Okay. Great.
So I'll turn on Q&A mode. If anyone wants to ask a question with their voice, go ahead and click ask a question. Otherwise, I'll just read stuff out of the chat.
Okay.
So what we do have some questions here. Do you know alternatives for Cordova, and have you used any of them?
So yes, there are alternatives for Cordova, but Cordova is the most popular plugin library and the most support on open source contribution. So in some cases, in some of our clients, we have developed our own kind of hybrid framework where we don't need an extensive functionality. So where our functionality is focused, we take the web views in the native apps for iOS and Android, and we create our own JavaScript bridge. So you can use the native web views, and from this particular last year, Apple as well as Google announced that you can now use your own web views in your app. So you can have the latest version of WebKit or Safari and use them. So, and the other option I already talked was cross-compiling platforms like Xamarin, Appsolator, and things like that.
What are the bad parts of Cordova that you've seen?
So currently, the bad parts of Cordova is that the plugin development is not standardized yet because these are open source plugins and sometimes people don't really update those plugins. And when I want to use a particular plugin, I don't find it, as well as some kind of performance optimization tuning that we have to do on our own, and it is not provided out of the box in Cordova. But if you want to use this or create your apps rapidly, you have to do that on your own. But Cordova is a mature platform that a lot of enterprise apps are being developed in this.
So how do you debug Ionic apps?
So one thing when I want, so I can debug it locally, as you say, Ionic serve in my browser as a normal AngularJS web app. But if you want to debug it like debug the native functionality or the plugins only work on the device. So you can use this Ionic view, this particular app which I just showcased, to test these apps. If you want to do debug it properly, you have to use console.logs, and there's a website called console.js.com, jsconsole.com, where you can remotely receive the console logs. So mostly when I debug my hybrid apps, I use that remote debugging tools.
All right. Have you used Phonegap build? If so, how does it compare to Ionic.io?
Yeah. Okay, so I have used a Phonegap build. So Phonegap build is just a cloud service to build your apps. So if you don't have a Mac machine, or if you don't have the SDKs installed on your local machine, you can pretty much use the Phonegap build. But there are some configuration differences in Cordova which you have to cater to. So you have to different config files and all. But I prefer for creating apps using the CLI, gives me more control than the Phonegap build.
All right. Can you compare using Ionic to something like Appcelerator or Phonegap?
So you can't. So Ionic is Phonegap. So Ionic uses Cordova. That is literally Phonegap. So Phonegap are Cordova. Phonegap and Cordova are the same thing. Don't get misunderstood. Phonegap was initially, so Phonegap is a company that was acquired. Phonegap platform was built by Nitobi, acquired by Adobe, and then open sourced as Cordova. Simply.
When it comes to building mobile apps with a high volume of HTTP requests, should we go native or hybrid?
So it doesn't matter. Even in native, you have to manage those network calls efficiently. You have to cache those, you have to queue those. So there are different design patterns you have to follow. And similar is in the case of hybrid app. It depends on your design patterns, your coding structure. Both are equivalent in my opinion. For you can scale it up to any n number of HTTP requests in both.
Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, we will call it a night then. Thank you very much.
Thanks. It was lovely.
Yeah, this is something that I've been wanting to play with for a while, so I'm excited. Everyone give Rahat a round of applause, and you'll be able to get these on the forum tonight. I've kind of got the process down for doing that.